Hi there. Since we're coming up to the 1st of May, or Beltane or Beeltene, which is a celebration of the sacred union between male and female principles, in a straight and gay context. But it's all about fertility of plants and animals and celebrating that fertility. And as somebody said to me, well, although I'm gay, I can still celebrate that fertility. I'm not excluded from that, which I think is very true. But at Beltane, we celebrate fertility. We celebrate the coming together of haploid DNA strands to create a diploid zygote, which is the product of the union between genetic strands. And and we celebrate, therefore, the marriage bed, which is a place of intimacy where many things are done in love, from love, and in the name of love. Um, and they have a natural, consensual um, quality to them, which benefits both parties. Now, there is a natural, I say marriage bed, so we're celebrating sacred sex and sex within marriage. I think a lot of Gnostics are highly conservative about the issue of sex and marriage. Marriage to include gay couples as well as straight couples, by the way, so I don't think we're that prejudiced or bigoted. It's just that I envisage the sacred bed as being protected by four angels at each corner of the bed. Um, and these four angels are duty, honor, loyalty, and commitment. And they represent the qualities which the marriage couple should cultivate within themselves and within each other. Because, as Dumbledore says in one of the Harry Potter books, it won't be the way that Voldemort or evil will enter this school is via you the pupils. You're the ones who are going to let him in. And so, which is not a very cheerful thought. So it's kind of like an inner betrayal that will allow evil to enter the marriage bed, even though it's guarded by these four angels. So these four angels have to represent qualities which you yourself have to cultivate within yourself, without judgment of others, in order to keep evil out of the marriage bed. And we live in a world which is corrupted, corruptible, and corrupting. So obviously, the marriage bed is open to these forces of degeneracy and corruption in the same way as anything else. Um, I mean, this conservatism is pretty strong. So, like, there's no sex before marriage. There's no fornication. There's no adultery. There's no abortion. And even though the US Constitution may protect your right to choose, as it's called, you know, and I know, and the universe knows that abortion is murder and is unethical, and you should not do it. Having said that, the US Constitution recognizes that some people may have no choice, or think they have no choice. And without getting into the debate about the legality of this, bearing in mind that the US Constitution, for example, also gives the right for a state to end the life of a criminal, and it also gives the right of US citizens to bear arms, and it also gives the right for the US Constitution to be defended by all means, including lethal force against internal and external enemies. So within this context, if war and capital punishment are deemed necessary to defend society, then abortion is seen in the same utilitarian way. But abortion is murder, so you should not do it. And you should take great care to not get yourself into a position where you might feel it necessary to have a termination. So no sex before marriage and no adultery is, of course, one way of ensuring that you don't have to have an abortion. But of course, there are medical reasons why you might have to have an abortion, and it might be threatening. The fetus might actually be threatening your own life. In which case, the Catholic Church allows abortion to occur in such rare circumstances. But anyway, I'm getting a little bit sidetracked here. So there is a lot of conservatism, I think, attached to the sacred marriage bed. It's exclusive to the couple, and but then he who is without sin casts the first stone. And Jesus said that you can commit adultery and be disloyal to your partner even in your heart. So if you fall in love with another person whilst you're married, then this is adultery. And I have done that over the 30 years of marriage. I've committed adultery in my heart a few times. And so therefore, I have no business to judge you because I have sinned myself. Even though I've never cheated on my wife, I've not in the physical sense. Perhaps in the spiritual, emotional sense, I have. So what I don't like about conservatism is that the way it seems to me that they have a sort of, I don't know, a feeling of judgment upon other people, as if they were God, as if they were Jesus, as if the preacher, your local preacher, takes it upon himself or herself to become Jesus, which is blasphemous. So we have no right to judge anyone. And this conservatism is something that you take on board yourself and with consent with your partner. Um, but it's not something which is there written in sort of harsh stone in law, some kind of religious law that is punishable through by death or whether something is right or wrong. I don't see why, as an adult, you should be punished for something that you know is wrong, but you did because you perceived it necessary. So that this necessity arises, in fact, from the lower worlds that we live in. We perceive this necessity, perhaps gradually or on the spur of the moment, and then we act in sin as a result. So that is the state of affairs, and that is why forgiveness is the only logical possible alternative to judgment, because and is obviously more Christian and more Gnostic than judgment, because because of the in the lower worlds, people are going to make errors of judgment, as it were, errors of perception, and going to think something is necessary when it is not necessary. So who are you to judge anyone else, kind of thing? And forgiveness must be high in your list of priorities in life, rather than judgment. Nevertheless, there is this conservatism, and there is this conservatism that you take on within yourself, within your own heart, within your own sense of honor, in order to uphold the honor of your personal self. Then loyalty, commitment, um, and and loyalty, commitment, and the other one. That's I've forgotten that. That's interesting, isn't it? Freudian slip there. Are very important because they uphold your personal honour. And I would include honesty also in that, and simplicity, which is a simple life of the person who has honour, whereas the person who does not have honour leads a very complex, shady life full of shadows and deceptions and of himself, of herself, and of other people. So it's a pretty miserable existence, really. And like Plato, I would say that the person who sins is really sinning against himself or herself, and they are bringing suffering on themselves. But anyway, I want to keep to the point here, which is that within the marriage bed, surrounded by the marriage bed, there are these four angels. And it's actually quite nice, I think, to visualize these four angels um, actually at the four corners of your marriage bed. And to do that every night, really, because with your visualization. And the more you do it, the more that you will contemplate, perhaps subconsciously, the qualities that are represented by the four angels that you're visualizing. Um, and this is to preserve fertility as a result. Now, of course, a lot of people will say, "What's all this about? Celebrating fertility when you're contra mundum, which means that you are against the whole of existence, because the whole of existence is of the lower worlds and of the demiurge, including fertility." I want to come back to this very complex question, which does have a very simple answer, actually, one which rests on definition of the words mundum, meaning world, and contra, meaning against. But suffice to say although there is a contradiction, perhaps, between Gnosticism and fertility, and having children, or being in a marital state, I think that, as I say, there isn't, in a sense, because the marriage and having children and being familiar and in a loving relationship with your children, it represents the loving relationship that you have with the transcendental God. Um, and it's one of the reasons, I suppose, why why marriage and parenthood are so readily corrupted by the demiurge. Although, of course, these things, because they are in the lower worlds, are corruptible, no doubt about that. So you can't sort of say, "Oh, it's all the demiurge's fault," because it's your weakness as well, or not so much your weakness, but your tendency towards corruption. And it's the good that you would do that you do not, sort of thing. So um, I mention all this because, as I say, we are getting near Beltane and Beltane, and we're celebrating this this unique relationship that two people have with each other, which, as I say, sort of mirrors, in fact, perfectly mirrors um, the relationship you have between soul and transcendental God. Of course, it may only be a temporary reflection, and it's a reflection which becomes steamed up and becomes distorted and becomes abusive and becomes non-consensual and becomes power politics and all sorts of other social feminist issues arise. It's complicated, as it says on Facebook, and yeah, whereas it's very simple in the transcendental world, it's very, very complex in this world and in the worlds of the demiurge. So, but that doesn't mean to say that we should deny the marriage bed and deny the importance of marriage as a symbol of the coming or the eventual union between soul and God, but also the union that actually exists now, even though we're not aware of it.